y'all. The Last of Us, episode 3, man. I'm not even gonna hold y'all. Let's get right into it, man. Shout out to everybody that's been supporting my channel. Y'all keep doing that work. I'll keep bringing y'all this work. Let's get it. All right, look. The first 2 episodes, there was an interview, and it was about fungus, and it kind of raises the fear factor of the seeing it infected. So it sets a huge amount of anticipation. That's what the interview is for. At least that's how I took it. The 3rd episode comes, there's no interview. So obviously there's not going to be too much infected. There's going to be some information here. And the information we got here is Bill and Frank. That was the whole episode. I'm glad they told the story. And the reason why I'm glad they told the story, because in the video game, they alluded to the fact that Bill and Frank was into it. Never was confirmed. But the fact that they alluded to it, you have the night. It's already in your head, like, all right, they was into it, because Bill left a series of letters in the video game talking shit to Frank, because Frank left. But Frank ended up dying in the video game. You never see Frank die. You don't see his character, so it really didn't stick with you. Before we get into the Bill and the Frank, let's talk a little bit about Ellie and Joe in the beginning, because this is the aftermath after Tess' death. So Ellie and Joe, they are growing a really, really weird but deep relationship. You can like tell by their body language and the subtleness and the way that they talk to each other. Like they know how far to push each other. They get an understanding of it. For example, Ellie tells Joe, Tess' death is not my fault. Basically tell him that it's not my fault. Y'all chose to take me to over here. I didn't force y'all to do anything y'all don't want to do. Joe was against it, but at the same time, he ultimately decided to go. So Ellie was completely right. And the way that Joe responded couldn't have been any better. If he would have said anything, it probably would have messed up the whole moment. The fact that he just looked and you could see him thinking and processing it, like, she's right, and then the nod, like, you're right, okay. And then immediately after that, she gives him his jacket and they start having dialogue. It was like that was something he needed to hear. That was just like, cause the reason why it was important because Ellie said it wasn't her fault. And that was not what Joe was thinking. Joe was not about to blame Ellie. Joe was thinking like, oh, this is my fault Tess died. So the fact that Ellie said that, it kind of like relieved him. And without her even knowing, it helped him a lot. That's why when you see him walking down the road, he's actually doing some dialogue with him. Like, it's so crazy. Even before they do the fungus, let's talk a little bit about the fungus. They go into this building and he goes to get some supplies, and this is where you see Ellie get her first infected kill. This is where you see it on screen, because she did say she was attacked by an infected, but they didn't tell you how she got away, and they don't tell you. Like, I hope they go into details about how she got infected, because that'll be a dope find. So she got her first kill. And you can just tell the subtlety about how it was dead, how his eyes was all bright, and then when you kill the brain, eyes went yellow and completely no function. So it's like the fungus just like took over completely the body and no more function. So Ellie gets her first kill. And then you see them walking up the road, and Ellie had some questions about the plane, about how the virus spread, took a jab at the gov. And then Joe gave a pretty decent explanation about how it can been affected in the food supply, basically stuff that's everywhere. Like, what I got from it, grains and all that stuff that's grown. That's what I got from it. Because sugar, flour, cereal, pancake mix, all that stuff that's, all the ingredients from stuff that can be grown. So that's important, because the fungus is spread through the ground, and they explained that in the 2nd episode when Tess was talking to Ellie about how they know where you at. That was the connection. So they go and they find this pile of bones, and now we go to the flashback about Bill and Frank. Like I said, Bill and Frank in the video game, it was completely different. Bill was writing letters to Frank, and it was basically cussing him out because Frank didn't want to be held up in the fortress that Bill built. Basically, Frank wanted to go. He felt trapped. That's why in the episode you see they explain how Tess, Joe, Bill, and Frank all met each other. They explained it. That's the reason why Frank left. Because Bill was like, I don't want to be around nobody. I'm fine by myself. I accepted you. Even when Frank and Bill first met, you can just see the chemistry between them. Like it was. I don't know if you paid attention to the part, the body language. Like I said, body language is a big factor. When Bill gave him the ladder, and he climbed out, and he had his hands up, Bill had his gun pointed at him. Bill never stopped pointing the gun at him. He got relaxed, put his hands down and everything, and smiling and all that good stuff. I was like, okay, you could just tell something was up to him. And then even when subtle differences, like subtle moments, like when he brought him clothes, it was like, okay, let me bring him clothes. Hey, clothes here. Even when he brought him the food, like he was rushing out there to give him the food, got the wine and all that stuff. It was like, to Bill, it was low key a first date, but he just didn't know the feelings and emotions that he was going through. And then Frank, being the more experienced, he's like, I know exactly what this is. That backstory with Bill and Frank was well told. That was not in the video game. I'm glad they added that because I'm glad they told their story. Even the fight about the protection, like I said, the trades about how Tess and Joe got all the materials, all that stuff is dope. What's crazy about this is this: Bill and Joe, like, this might be a spoiler because this might be a spoiler because in the game is different. I don't know if they're gonna put this in there. I'm just gonna say it. Spoiler. I'm gonna have a timestamp in the description. Just fast forward it, and then we'll just go from there. And I have the timestamp when I stop. So this is a spoiler. Bill, okay, in the show, this show Bill and Frank dead, murder suicide. In the video game, Bill and Ellie met. Bill, Ellie, and Joe met. It was a nice little dialogue between Ellie and Bill. But they was looking for a battery, so it doesn't make any sense for Bill to come in the picture now because he already got his battery. But that dialogue would have been dope between them because Bill didn't like kids, and Bill was like, I don't like people all in my space. I barely even like you, Joe. It's just all that. I know certain parts got to get cut out, but some parts have to be left in. That could have been one of those parts. I'm gonna stop it right there. That's the end of that spoiler. I'm gonna put the timestamp. So, the letter. I mentioned the letters from the video game. The letter on the table that Ellie was reading to Joe. As she was reading it, and Bill and Joe were like they kind of alike. So as he was reading it, you could just see the look in his eyes again. Like, it's the body language, the way he stand, the posture, all that good stuff. She was reading it. He wasn't thinking about Tess. He was just thinking about. He wasn't thinking about Surrey. He was thinking about Ellie. So when she stopped, reality kicked in. It was like boom, reality. So that's why he grabbed the letter, and then as you can see on the letter, it said Tess. All the rest of it just blurred out, but it's kind of sad. But you see Tess, and then he immediately wants to be alone. He goes outside, and it's like he got reassured. Like, all right, I am going the wrong path. I can't get attached to it. I can't. So he comes back in, and he has a little chat with her. And what was the chat? Basically, I'm the boss, you follow my rules. And the way she summed that up was crazy. And then you go and see the build. Like, the storytelling about this episode was amazing. The dialogue between Joe and Ellie is starting to get better. You're starting to see the growth of their development. The even a part about I almost forgot about this part. Even a part about the arcade within the video game. It was a different game, but the arcade. Oh my god, they added all the little subtle differences. Like they are really capturing the damn video game that was made years ago. Like they could have left that part out, but they didn't want to because it was like an important thing, because it shows and it dictates how disconnected Ellie was away from the world. This, like, she was born into the world infected, and Joe is a gateway to how the world used to be before infected. So that, her curiosity and her, the way that she get excited about the little things that he already that he seems normal, is what's really loosening him up. Like, it is really, really dope. Like that dialogue between them, like the way he talk. Even you even see Joe smile in the car when she's the first time she's in the car playing the music. Like, you start to see Joe low key being human, like showing some damn emotion. That is like amazing. Like, you start to see like the development between them. Episode 3. Even with the change ups between Bill and Frank, like that story wasn't told, how everything went down, how they got the battery and all that good stuff. Even with those change up, the story is still great, because if there wasn't a video game, and if I didn't know the video game, I still would be attached. Like, that love story between them two was like, it was well deserved. And I'm glad they made the episode longer than last week's episode, because I wanted them to tell, if they're going to tell the story, you got to tell it right. And you got to do them justice. They're like the chemistry between them two, between Frank and Bill, was amazing. Like, the shyness, the vulnerable state that Bill was in, he's not used to being in, the take charge attitude that Frank had at times. Like, it was really good. I enjoyed the episode a lot, and I'm really looking forward to episode 4. Actually, I'm very looking forward to episode 4, because oh man, I want to see how they're gonna put this together. And in case you didn't know, from episode 3, episode 3, Ellie's been trying to get her hands on the gun for the last couple episodes. She finally got one. Let's see how it goes, man. Holla.